Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio. Your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
Hello and welcome to the Persistence Payoff Show. I'm your host, Kimberly SCHAFER, and we're here on USA Global TV and Radio and also the Dr. Kerbeck channel. This show is dedicated to talking with people about persistence and about their journeys to make their dreams a reality. I'm on my own journey with persistence. I am a first-time inventor and entrepreneur. I'm in my next chapter of life as the inventor of the ring thing. It's a patented waterproof ring holder that I invented, and I'm learning about persistence and the importance of it every single day. I'm very excited to talk with our guest today. She has a really inspiring journey of her own about persistence and resilience. Edwina Perkins has spent her career helping to tell stories that might otherwise have gone untold. She's the co-director of the Blue Ridge Mountain Christian Writers Conference and managing editor of HARAMBEE Press. She works with other writers as a freelance editor, a ghostwriter, a sensitivity counselor, a coach, and more. And in a very exciting event, she has literally just published her debut novel, The Colors of Home. So I'm looking forward to talking with her about all of these things. So please welcome Edwina Perkins.
Hi, Kimberly. So nice to meet you.
Thank you. It's great to meet you. And I'm so grateful that you're here today. Thank you for that.
It's my pleasure.
First of all, congratulations on publishing your first novel. That's incredible. And I would love to start by just hearing about your journey as a writer. How did you first start out as a writer?
I started by going to a meeting with Word Weavers International. Now, here's what's funny. I did not want to go. And a friend of mine encouraged me to go with her. So I thought we were going to go and critique her writing. And we went, and it was my writing that got critiqued. And the people I met there were so encouraging. So I went to my very first conference and was excited to meet editors and agents. And what I learned after just a few meetings was that people didn't know what to do with my writing. I write primarily about people of color, diversity, and I actually was told they didn't know where to market it. So I stepped back for about 5 years and just said, God, I want to understand the market. And that's kind of where my journey started. I started off as a writer, stepped back to learn the industry, and the rest built from there.
Gosh, that, I'm just imagining how that sequence must have felt, where you go to this conference and your writing is identified and highlighted as gifted and really good, and then you're told we don't know what to do with it. And that must have been a roller coaster of emotions at the time.
It really was, because I'd also been told that I was a good writer. And I thought, well, why does it make a difference if my characters are characters of color?
Yes.
And that's when I knew I needed to understand the industry, because I wasn't the only one who was going to walk that walk. And I wanted to make sure that I was going to give other people an opportunity to step into the publishing industry.
Yes, yes. And I'm so glad you did, because it's critically important that we have diversity in all areas of our lives, including stories. I think it's really important. And I'm curious to know, during that 5 years, how did you go about learning about the publishing world and understanding that? What was your process?
I went to conferences. I attended workshops. I talked to editors. I got to know agents. And the nice thing with all of that is I didn't feel pressure to pitch a book. So it was a whole time of learning. And here's what's interesting: while I was doing that, going to a number of conferences, some of the faculty started just trusting me and sharing with me. And it was easy for me to sit across the table from someone and say, so tell me what you do and how did you get there? Because that's what I wanted to know. And I started being invited to teach at conferences, the knowledge that I had gathered along the way. And that's how it started. Like I said, I had no problem learning. I love to learn. And that's what I was doing, with an eye toward how do I get other writers of color into this industry?
Yes. That's such an interesting story of persistence, because you really had to persist through that. And I'm sure that there wasn't, I don't want to say a lack of support, but there were not other people probably doing that. And so you had to be a trailblazer in that way. And so in terms of your own persistence during that journey, did you ever consider giving up? And how did you just continue moving forward?
Absolutely, I wanted to quit. When I taught at a major conference, and the director there was so excited that I was going to come talk about diversity, and I was excited because I wanted to talk to other writers about the need for it. And I went to my workshop and I sat there waiting for conferees to show up. I sat an hour and a half and no one showed up. So when I walked out of the classroom, the director was there and he was excited to hear what had happened. And I told him, I said, well, I had an empty classroom. And his words helped keep me going. He said, Edwina, one day people are going to want to hear what you have to say. And to push forward, to go to different conferences and have one person or two people in a classroom, I thought, well, these are the people who are supposed to be here. These are the people I need to talk with. And I began realizing it wasn't a matter of numbers. It was a matter of who needed to be in that classroom. And those were the ones I was going to speak to.
Yes. That I'm so glad that you did. It reminds me of a story I heard from someone who was doing fundraising for, I don't remember what the topic was that they were fundraising for, but it was not a popular one. And so they went to give a fundraising talk and two people showed up, but they did their talk. And in the end, one of those people donated some huge amount of money. And so that it was the same takeaway of like, it only takes one person, to really have an impact. And so kudos to you for pushing through that, because I can imagine it would also get discouraging, that's, so what were the things that you learned during your investigation or your learning process? What were your takeaways during that time?
I think the number one takeaway is when people don't know, they are not willing to step into the unknown. Mm-hmm. And one of the main things is when I would talk to editors, agents, even other writers, they didn't want to offend anybody. They didn't want to step into something they didn't understand. And I just thought, but how else are you going to learn? Mm-hmm. How else are you going to learn about a different culture, different people, if you're not willing to take a chance and step out? And one of the things that stepping out, you could get hurt. You could run into someone who doesn't want to have anything to do with you. They don't want to talk to you about where they're from, and you keep doing it. That was one of the things as I taught at conferences, I would let people know, you really can ask me anything. I won't be offended as long as I know you want to learn. If your intention is to offend me, well, there the conversation ends. And that's what I began to realize, is that people are afraid. Whether it's editors, agents, writers, people are afraid to step into the unknown. And I felt like I was a bridge to help make that happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think what you just said is also so powerful, that it's okay for us to say what we don't know and to take those chances. But if the intention is to offend, that's where the boundary is. The boundary isn't, you don't know this, and so ask away and let me help you. That's a different intention than the intention to offend. And did you actually come across people who intended to offend you?
I did.
Mhm.
I don't know if they understood they were offending, even when I said, that is not the way we should talk about this conversation. Because no matter what I would say, they would go back to, well, I think. And I was just concerned because I was like, but you're not in my shoes.
Right.
You can think that, but that doesn't make it fact. And there have been people that I've just had to say, well, we're going to have to disagree. And they thought I was being rude. And you just have to still handle that with grace. Understand that those people are out there and you may run into them. And one of the things that has encouraged me are people who've gotten to know me will speak up for me. And a number of times, whoever this individual is would go to someone I know, and then they would say, you don't understand the heart of Edwina. And it's, you can't just stay there. One of the things that I do often say is, are you asking me to learn so you can learn something? Or are you asking me so you can argue?
Mm.
And they have to start off with answering that question. And if there's a hesitation, I instantly think, oh, you want to argue. And I'm not going to do that. I refuse to argue with you. You've already made up your mind. My answers before we say them. But if someone says, I want to learn, then let's carry on the conversation.
Yeah, that is such a great example. And I think, and that clarity, you have some clear boundaries in there of what's okay and what's not. And I think it's important for people to learn. We might have our own understanding of things, but that's different than saying, I know the answer to something if it's not your experience. And so I think that's a really important line for people to cross, to be aware of that. I can't say I know something that I don't have any way of knowing, but I can learn about it. And I think it's beautiful the way that you put that.
And
So
I think it's important for people to be willing to say, I don't know.
yes,
I'm asking because I honestly don't know. And I
yes,
love when people say that. I love when they're willing to step out. And when people say to me, okay, this is going to sound like a dumb question, I'm like, no, it's not going to sound like a dumb question. It's going to sound like a question that you want the answer to. And if I can answer it, I will. If I can't, I will tell you I don't know, and encourage you to keep searching for the answer. That'll make you a better person. It'll make you a better writer. Because the thing is, when I talk about the need for diversity in the publishing industry, it's all about learning. It's all about willing to step out. I actually had an editor approach me one time and asked me if I would edit this book. And it was by a person of color. And I thought, sure. And then I realized, wait a minute, you gave this person their rights back. There's a story behind that. So when I reached out to the editor, he said, I don't know how to edit their work. That I so valued, because he didn't try to edit. He didn't try to give this individual a new voice. He just said, I don't know what to do.
yes. And you're so right. That's how we learn, and that's how things move forward, is getting that knowledge and getting that understanding, but you have to be open to it.
Yes.
And do you find, so I know that a lot of your work is in Christian publishing, and do you feel that there's any difference in diversity in Christian publishing versus the publishing world at large?
I do. I really think the publishing world at large was more open initially to invite people who are different from them, ethnic individuals, those who deal with mental issues and handicap issues, they are more open. I think a little bit in the Christian industry is, again, that fear. It is, it's a business, and they're going to market to those who are going to buy their material. And if taking a risk is going to cost them, I think a lot of Christian industries back away, where the general publishing industry are like, we'll take a chance. We know these people are out there. And that's one of the places I see a difference. And that's where I champion voices of color. Because if we don't, who's going to do it? Honestly, who's going to do it? Yeah. And so I do see that difference.
Yes. And I'm also, as you're talking, I'm just realizing how inspirational you must be, both have been, be, and will be to other people, to writers of color, to writers not of color, but who are interested in learning. But to see you taking on these issues and being willing to talk about them openly and try to move forward in a positive way, I think is fantastic. So I really imagine that you have inspired many people, and I give you a lot of credit for that.
Thank you. And I think for me, it started before I got involved with publishing. As a young child, I'm going to just go back to high school, which was a long time ago. I began realizing that there was a discrimination there. And it was because I had friends who were white, and the people in the ethnic community didn't like it. I grew up in a very small town. Everybody knew everybody. And I kept going, well, why? Why is nobody willing to cross this line? And then I remember going to college, and at one point I said, God, where do I fit? I don't have an issue with people who are different from me. I don't have an issue with people who are in the culture that I'm in. Where do I fit? And as I graduated, started having a family, and then felt like God was calling me to write, I felt like I was still facing the same thing until I thought, okay, God, you want me to be a bridge. I can be a bridge. And then it was that, but you do know bridges are walked on.
Yeah.
And I was like, I didn't sign up for that. But that's true. If you consider yourself a bridge, you have to be willing, and not in a negative way, but to be walked on to make the connections, which means you have to be strong enough to let people go in both directions of the bridge. And that's been kind of where I feel like I've been the entrepreneur of all of this. And I've had writers of multiple cultures approach me and say, thank you for doing this. Thank you for opening doors. And that's my heart. That's my desire, is give me an opportunity to see somebody else launched, to see them enter a world where years ago they might not have been able to enter. And I love to champion writers. They don't just have to be people of color, but I love championing writers.
Yes. Oh, that's beautiful. And also, as you're talking about the bridge, I think you're right about, people, you have to be willing to be walked on in both directions, and also to offer that support, because bridges support whoever is walking across them. And that's exactly what you're doing. And I'm curious to know, so you've spent, effort helping other people. And then what led you to write your own book? What was the impetus for saying, I have this story in me and I'm going to tell my story?
Kimberly, believe it or not, I've had this story mostly written for the last 10 years, maybe a little longer. And I just kept having that sense that God was telling me to wait. And I would go, well, is this the year? Wait. All right. Is this the year? Wait. And when I hit about year 5, I was like, am I ever going to publish? And when I got involved with conferences and I became the co-director of Blue Ridge, first thing writers said to me was, where are your books? And I go, they're not published yet. And they would just look at me, what? How are you able to do what you do without a published book? And I would simply say, God's timing. And this year was year 10, this past year. And I just thought, God will tell me when. And with this new publishing house that opened up and I was talking to this individual, it was like I got this sense of now. And I was blown away. And what it taught me, there were a couple of things. One, you've got to be willing to wait. Just because you finished a book doesn't mean you're going to go out within the next year and publish it, because it might not be the right time. You might not have the audience who's ready to hear what you have to say. And you want to make sure that you wait until it's the right time. And when people go, well, how did you wait 10 years? I had to wait for the right time. Now, I will tell you, I was like, okay, God, this was a little long, don't you think? But when I looked back and thought of all the ways that I've been able to help writers accomplish their dreams, accomplish their goals, I realized that if I had jumped immediately into publishing, I would have only been focused on my writing career. But in this waiting, I was able to focus on other writers and what they have to offer. And it was like I had to wait until God said, it's time.
Yeah, that is so powerful. And also, I would imagine not easy to do, especially in this time when you can self-publish your own book on Amazon. There's a lot of pressure to like get things out on social media and get stuff out. And so for you to have the wisdom and the ability to listen to that, I think is very, very powerful, both for you and again, as an example for other people. And do you find that other writers have learned from that? Have you seen other people kind of take a sigh of relief and say, okay, I don't have to feel like I have to get this out right now?
I've seen more writers go, you're kidding. It's like, I've written this book. I want to launch it. And I just mentioned, it's hard for a premature baby to survive. And a book is your baby. And if you're not willing to, ask the question, do I need to publish now? Then you're not willing to let go. And when I first had this book almost totally completed, I'd started pitching it. And I had people going, oh, this is going to be a perfect book to publish. But like I said, I had editors particularly say to me, we don't know where we're going to market it. And that's when I thought, then it's not time.
No,
I need to wait. If you're saying to me, you don't know where to market it, it's not time.
And is that for the same reason as you were originally told when you first had that first experience at the first conference, that because it was about characters of color that they didn't know how to market your book? Is that a consistent theme that has continued?
It did. It's not as much now, but it did. And that's why I was impressed with the director of the conference. He invited me and said, oh, his team is not going to be happy. And I thought, I don't want to stir something up. He's like, no, we have to reprint the brochures. I was like, you brought that on yourself. But he believed in what I was doing and he saw the need for it. And so that's why I said there are people who came alongside of me who were like saying, don't give up. Yes. What you're doing is making a difference. Don't give up. And there are times, I'll be honest, I wanted to take my computer and throw it out the window. I wanted to tell the director, I am not interested in coming to your conference, especially when I knew I was the only person of color. And it's like, who's going to want to come to my workshops? But then people began to realize that's what I stood for. I stand for, engaging everybody. Doesn't matter the culture, And that's when I started getting writers saying to me, well, can I ask you a question? Yes. And the more that grew, the more directors were asking me to come and speak. And there's a number of people that I have actually championed to be speakers at conferences who are people of color, because I would go to the director and say, you really need this person on your faculty. And Kimberly, I don't know if I'm rambling, but this is my heart. This is what I love to do. And yeah, there are times it's hard. There are times I feel like I am the only one, and I am the only one.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't mean it's time to quit.
Yes. Well, first of all, no, it's not rambling at all, because I think this is really important to talk about and be aware of, and that's how things change. And you've been in this situation often, and you're taking it on yourself to have the courage to move forward, even when you might, like you said, there might be times when you feel like throwing your typewriter out, your computer keyboard, not typewriter. I'm showing my but you've kept at it, and it's making a difference, and you can see that. And so I think it's really kudos to you, and very, very admirable. And I would love to hear about your book. What is The Colors of Home about?
Well, I've already mentioned I like to write about people of color. So the idea of the whole story is you have a woman who is widowed, and she takes her 3 biracial children into small town North Carolina. Mm-hmm. And they have to learn what it means to find home. The place they go to is called Home, North Carolina. Now, that's not a real town, but Welcome, North Carolina is a real town. So I invented this place on the other side of Welcome, so you would have Welcome Home. Mm-hmm. And as they navigate, being without a dad, being without a husband, what is it like to be in a small town with a father-in-law who does not like you? Ebony is learning that she can't do it by herself. And that's a lot of what's going on. And the children are learning what it's like to navigate without their dad. So you have some funny scenes, you have some really heartfelt, just family scenes. And there's one, I'm going to quote somebody who quoted my book. She wrote to me, she said, okay, this just brought me tears. When someone is gone, it might hurt at first, but if you wait, they still have stories to tell. And she was like, that made me cry. But the whole idea is, yes, they're gone, but they're still with us. They're in our hearts. And one of the things with the book is Michael is dead, but you learn about who he is through flashbacks. So that's more the story. It's about resilience. It's about not giving up and being willing to not go it alone.
Yes. So you really are so accomplished with persistence in these many different ways, both in moving forward with your work at conferences and educating people in your own journey as a writer. Where do you feel that quality of persistence came from for you?
My mom. My mom was persistent in a lot of things. She went through hardship. She went through the loss. She had 9 miscarriages. And when she got older, she ended up having an amputation. And this is what I admire about my mom. She was older, and they told her, don't be in a hurry. You're going to start with a wheelchair, and maybe you'll be able to get up with a prosthetic. And the next day, I heard this story. A nurse went in, and my mom was missing. And she was panicking. She's like, I don't know where she is. I don't think anyone came to get her. Well, Mom had used crutches to go sit in the waiting room and watch TV. And she's hearing all this commotion. And she thought, oh my gosh, they're looking for me. Well, they got her back to the bed and they took her crutches. She was She was not happy. Another time I worked for a camp. It was a camp for the blind. And by then my mom was legally blind. Well, she came to camp one year while I was there, and I just let her be. I wasn't going to interfere. I wasn't her counselor. And the counselor came in and said to me, "Your mom rode a horse today." I was like, "Excuse me?" Well, by then she was a double amputee. And he said, I asked her if she wanted to get on, and he said yes. She said yes. And he took a picture of her sitting on top of a horse with no legs.
Wow.
So she is the one that I have learned persistence from. I watched her go through a lot, and I watched her not give up. And she instilled that in me.
Yes. Oh my gosh. That's an incredible story and an incredible woman. So, wow. I'm curious to know what's next for you. Like, do you have another book that you're working on, or as you look ahead and at your focus, are you looking at writing another book as time allows? Are you continuing your work at conferences, and how are you moving forward?
Well, now I'm having to balance.
Mm-hmm.
I was averaging 10 conferences a year, and I had to say, I've got to pull back if now God's going to allow me to focus on my writing. So the second book is mostly written, and it is called The Seasons of Home.
Mm-hmm.
And it picks up where the first one ends, because there's a mystery going on. And if you want to stop with the first book, you can. But if you're curious more about the mystery, you want to go into The Seasons of Home. Now, I know it's going to be a trilogy, and here's what's so funny. I was talking with my daughter-in-law, and my granddaughter was standing here listening, and she said, she calls me Nona. She says, "Well, Nona, I know the name of the third book." And I looked at her like, "Really? I think you should call it Finally Home."
Mm-hmm. Oh
So I told her, if I go with that, which I think I will, I'm going to give her credit in the book. And she was so proud. But to hear her, she likes my stories and how I tell them. And so to know that one day she's going to read these stories, these books, because right now she's 9. And she could, but I don't think she'd get everything out of it that I would hope for her to. And one of the things with what I write, I don't want someone to say, "Oh, that's a good book," and put it down. I want them to discuss what's in it and the hard topics that are raised in the book. And I know some people are going to go, could that really happen? Yes. A number of things I experienced that I wrote about, especially in the area of racism. And that's another thing, that you'll either get bitter or you'll grow. And I chose to grow and understand. When people don't understand something, they either want to learn it or they get angry. There's not a lot of middle ground. And so I could have, through that process, just gotten angry and bitter. But I thought, well, where would that take me? So I chose to grow and try to help other people grow.
Yes, and you are. I'm thinking as you're talking, that not only are you helping people grow through your speaking and the conferences and the writers you help, but also for your readers. It is a very personal way to help people grow through your books, as well as through your speaking and your conference work. So I thank you truly for taking on these topics, because it's not easy, and I'm sure it would be easier for you not to do it. But I appreciate and I'm grateful that you are doing it. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. And, I would also add that it's not just a black and white situation when you think of marginalized people. One of the characters in my book, a little girl named Destiny, she has Down syndrome. And she also comes from a marginalized community. I used to teach school, and one of my students, the day of her wedding was the last day she walked for almost 5 years. Wow. She had an autoimmune system that had gone wrong, And the doctors didn't know it. So she found herself in a wheelchair. And when I met with her, almost 2 years into her marriage, she said, Mrs. Perkins, you know what bothers me the most? And I said, what? I'm invisible. People don't see that I'm a person in this chair. They won't hold the door open for me. They will cut in front of me in a line. They will talk as if I'm not present. That's a marginalized community. And that's what I want people to understand. It's not black and white. It's so much more than that. It's people who feel invisible. And what can we do to help them feel visible?
Yes. Oh my gosh, you're giving me goosebumps. That's really powerful. And as I was afraid was going to happen, our time is wrapping up, and I feel like we could keep talking for hours because I'm so interested in your work and what you're doing. But before we let you go, could you please let people know how they can connect with you? How can they find your book, your work? How can they reach you directly?
They can reach me directly through my webpage, which is edwinaperkins.com. And really, the book is over a lot of different places, but Amazon would be a great place for you to purchase the book and leave a review. I understand that now. Leave a review for once you've read the book. And I am very open to, please be honest. If you like it, let me know. If you have an issue with it, let me know, because that'll help me be a better writer. So Amazon is the best. And if people want to reach out to me, because I've had a number of people say, well, how can I get an autographed copy? If they reach out to me through my web page, I will let them know.
All right, super. Thank you so much. And we have your webpage up on the screen, and it's beautiful. So you've done a great job with that. Well, thank you so much for being here. And I would love to have you come on again and talk more, because I feel like there's just a lot of topics to cover. So I've so enjoyed this conversation. And I thank you truly. And please literally keep up the good work.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you. So that was so inspiring in so many ways. I'm just really grateful for the work that Edwina is doing. I wanted to share a little bit about my own journey with persistence. As I said at the beginning, I'm the inventor of the Ring Thing, which is a patented waterproof ring holder. You can stack your rings on it, and there are divider discs so that you can safely stack your rings and they won't damage each other. And then you just twist it closed, and you can clip it on your water bottles, on your keys, and they're waterproof and float. And now I can customize them with company logos. So here's the USA Global TV branded Ring Thing with an NFC tag that goes right to the company website. So please take a look. My website is ringthing.com. I would love to hear from you. My email address is info@ringthing.com. And I'd also love to hear not just about the Ring Thing, but any suggestions you have about the Persistence Payoff Show, any questions, any suggestions. We are here every 2 weeks on USA Global TV and Radio, Tuesdays at 12 Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern Time live, and you can watch us anytime on YouTube after. So thank you so much for being here. And also thank you to Roland FRIEDL, our producer, and Dr. Jacqueline Kerbick, the founder of USA Global TV and Radio. I look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USA-Global-TV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Music by Johnny Dyes. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative Direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Copyright 2025. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.